Well, hello again. All the parts are out of the vinegar. Let me get this bottle of water out of the way here. All the parts are out of the vinegar, and as you can see already, surface rust is beginning to develop. I just now took them out of the stove after I washed all the vinegar off. I put them in the stove on low heat, dried them all off, and within that period of time that little bit of rust developed. So you don't have a whole lot of time after you de-rust this stuff and make sure all the rust and the dirt and the crap and the crud is off. So it's just part of it, I guess. Anyway, we have our lower control arm. This is the bracket that holds the back of the lower control arm like this. And then we have the strut arm and the horizontal bar that holds the upper control arm to the inner fender. So let's get cranked up on this. We got to get some spray on this stuff. I'm using black this time. It'll be easier to cover. You know, the idea is to get it on quick, get you a light coat, get her going, don't mess around. You can always play around later after you get it covered. And that's what I'm going to be doing for the next few minutes, just what you see right here. Now when it comes to this right here, I'm going to be real careful. I'm not going to put a whole lot of paint on the threads. I want to put enough to protect it until we get a chance to put them back on the car, put this thing back on the car. But when I do, before I put the bushings on the end, I'll take a wire brush and clean them all off. But for now, we've got to have some kind of protection in those threads. Just enough. It'll come off with a wire brush, no problem. And the same over here. We've got a serrated area on the strut that grabs a hold of the bottom control arm and helps hold it in place. It would fit across these two large holes right here. And it just digs right into the metal. So we don't want to put a whole lot of paint on those either, but as you can see, this baby rusts quick. So let me finish it up. One more thing, right here is where the bushing will be going through the lower control arm. I'm not going to put a ton of paint in there either. I mean, we're going to have to clean that out. We'll take a little lacquer thinner and clean it out when the time comes, because I want to be able to clean it down to the metal, put a little grease in there, and then push the bushing in. I just don't want to have a bunch of paint underneath between the bushing and the lower control arm. Same thing with these holes right here. You know, we're going to go ahead and sand those out and get it down to the metal like it was originally. So if any paint does get down in there, we want to make sure that it doesn't clog things up. You know, in fact, the two bolts on the fender that come through, the ones that this thing was on, those bolts will have to be taped off before I spray. And even then, after it's all, you know, after everything's ready to go, we're ready to put back on, we're going to have to clean those bolt threads out with a wire brush and get everything good to go. And we don't want paint to be messing us up. It probably wouldn't do it too much, but you know, why take the chance? I mean, I got a wire brush, I got time, why not, you know? Now that we have everything spray painted and protected, this is the upper control arm, and there was no room in the big vat for it plus everything else. So now it's its turn in the old barrel, as they say. We're going to go ahead and just take a look at that, see just how rusted that is on both sides. I want everybody to take a look at just how effective this, that's all rust and stuff. I want to see everybody see, who hasn't seen it yet, just how effective this stuff is. I'm going to put it in upside down. I want to have it all covered with the vinegar. Now what I'll probably have to do is take some vinegar from here and put it in there and make sure it covers it all up. I want the whole thing covered. Alright, there we go. She's all covered. We're just going to let this sit for a few days and put the lid back on and put this up here. By the way, it was asked one more time by another one of our subscribers what strength vinegar I use. 5% acidity is what I use. And it really eats, when you got heavy rust, you got to have something that's going to get that crap off. If you get a lower than that, I don't even know where there is a lower. Everything on Walmart's shelf is 5%. I buy the white Walmart vinegar. Works perfect. That's everything you've seen here. It's been derusted. It's been derusted by that stuff. The only thing is, just don't get impatient. Now this will probably sit in here for, oh God, at least 4 or 5 days. But you know, why should I sit there and scrub and clean and sand and all that? Let the vinegar do the work. All I have to do is, you know, those of you following my videos, you know that I'm working on a airline 1931 airline radio cabinet that I'm restoring. So, you know, what the heck? Let the vinegar do the work. All I have to do is work on the cabinet. Piece of cake, huh? Well, there's the rest of the small parts. I've got them all painted on one side. I'm going to let them set overnight, and then we'll flip them over again tomorrow and finish the other side. I want the primer paint to really set and stick and all that. I don't want it rubbing off on the wood because it's still wet. Meanwhile, I'll tell you what, let's go underneath the fender of the car and take our little can of black primer and see what we can do with that. Well, that's not too bad. All of the rust that was there has been converted to black by the rust reformer. Man, I'll tell you what, I'm pretty happy about that. Well, let me see what we got up there. Well, there's a little bit up in there, but I think I can get that with the Rust-Oleum primer. And no, that's not. That's not rust. That's just primer. That's red primer. And stuff always fools me. Maybe down the bottom down here. Just a little bit right there. But overall, I think we're looking real good. All I got to do is start hitting it with primer, and then hit it with gloss enamel over the top, and then hit it with the undercoating. So I already taped off the two bolts with tape. You know, there's still paint and stuff in there, and there's been a few cobwebs developed since the last time we worked on it. It doesn't take long out here in this garage, so I think what I'm going to do is just go ahead and start getting with it. I've cleaned it off as much as I can with a wire brush and brake fluid or brake cleaner. Go ahead and see what we can do and make it look halfway decent. Well, that's about it for the primer paint. I've got it all covered, everything. Looks really good in there now, nice and clean, nice and fresh paint. I like that. Looks really good. Might be a couple of spots I missed. I better get up in there right there. I missed a little spot right there. But other than that, she's looking real good. I even got back in here, got all that done. Okay, what we're going to do is we're just going to take the enamel paint now, and it's only for protective purposes. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the areas where there is no undercoating at all, where it all came off. Different spots here and there. We're not going to cover the entire thing, just the area with no undercoating. And then once that dries, I'm going to let this primer dry all night, and then tomorrow we'll come out, we'll put the enamel on in the various areas, let that dry overnight, then we'll hit it with the undercoating and let it dry 24 hours. So it's a long process, you know. Meanwhile, I'll just keep working on the old radio cabinet. So she's looking real good so far. I'm real happy about this. Well, things are looking a little better after the next day. Unfortunately, see how rough that surface is right there? I ran out of black primer, so I went and got the old can that was a high gloss kind of primer. For those of you who remember, a few videos back I used it, and I didn't like it because it did exactly that, made things rough. But that's okay for this application because everything's underneath the car and up there, you know, underneath the fender well. What we're looking for there is protection more than beauty, and that's what we now have. So I think I'm not going to use this, the rest of it. I'm just going to throw it away and just spray it with the black gloss, and I think that'll take care of things. Let's go put some undercoating up under the fender of the old T-Bird. Now all this rough stuff you see here, remember, is the original sound deadener or undercoating, whichever you want to call it. There's quite a bit of it still up underneath there. So it's not going to take a whole lot of undercoating to cover this area right here. Of course you'll need some. Over in here is going to need some, down around here. So we're going to go ahead and get this. I'm going to use my little old handle, and that'll give me a little bit better. We're going to go ahead and spray this stuff and put it on a little heavier than usual. Remember, we don't need to cover everything, just certain areas. She's looking pretty good so far. That stuff they sprayed on there, boy, they must have had a fire hose for a nozzle, the original stuff, huh? That's really thick. Alright, that's all she wrote. She looks very well covered. I put it on really thick in a few spots. Not as thick as the old, of course, but I gave it the old college try. I even got it way back in here, got her covered back in there, so she's as protected as I can get it. So I'll tell you what, I think what I'll do is go ahead and wrap this video up here, give you guys a break from the long videos, and I still have a lot of painting to do and everything, and probably the next video I'm going to try real hard. Hopefully the next video we can go to work on that carburetor out there on that bench in the shop. I'll just have to crank up the old air conditioner and we'll go out there and see if we can't get that baby rebuilt. There's no sense in wasting time. I could work on the master cylinder here, but I think I'm ready for a change of pace. Let's go to work on the carburetor if I can get it done. Now next weekend, the 15th, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend, the 15th of June, is the car show up at Mount Pettigene. Some of you who watched that video last year, we're going back up there to the car show. We're going to talk to people. I want to talk to that fellow that owns that silver 66 Thunderbird convertible. I think it's a 66, might be 65. That beautiful car. God, I wish he'd sell that thing for a couple $100. I'd snap it up in a minute. Anyway, I'm going to talk to him. We're going to look at, maybe there'll be some new cars up there. Maybe not. You know, sometimes the old boys, they just bring the same cars year after year. So we shall see. I hope to produce a good video. One more last thing. The day I'm up in Mount Pettigene looking at the car show and filming that and trying to come up with a decent video for you all, our youngest grandson John will be out in Dewey, Oklahoma for his first kickboxing match. I just got off the phone with him. I told him, I said, you know, look guy, I hope you're in shape. He said, I'm in very good shape. I said, I hope so, because the guy you're going up against, you know, it doesn't matter who it is, he's out there to tear your head off, so you better be prepared for that, you know. He said, I know. I said, well, you better know. And then I put him onto a couple of YouTube videos where the ring is that he'll be fighting in Dewey, Oklahoma. So if you all want to see the ring, just type in Dewey, Oklahoma kickboxing. You'll see the ring where he'll be fighting. And I'm going to talk to his mom and make sure she does a good set of videos on that. I want to post them. Win, lose, or draw, whatever the situation, you know, whatever the end result is. Win, lose, or draw. I want you all to see what happened, okay? So anyway, until next time, this is John.